Big Bad Toy Store has a bunch of Evil Dead goodies, so check out the link in the description down below. Hello there, Screwheads. It's Steven here with my first real Evil Dead review, and what a way to kick things off on this Ash Wednesday before Season 3 airs with Ultimate Ash from Ash vs. Evil Dead. Now, the thing about this guy is that this Ultimate figure was released just shortly after Series 1 of the Ash vs. Evil Dead figures, in which we got two separate Ashes. Well, this one is a combination figure that used the Hero Ash design with accessories from both figures. Yeah, so there were quite a few fans who were not too happy about that, and they didn't know whether or not this figure would be worth the purchase, considering it would just be an Ash figure they already had with more accessories. But for those of you who don't have it, is it worth it? You know the drill, so let's take a look to see whether or not it's worth adding into your collection. I have to say that when it comes to looks for Ash Williams here, generally speaking, NECA did a good job. There are some areas that look really, really nice with paint application, and the sculpt overall is fantastic. However, there are other parts where it comes to paint and the build material of the figure where I just have to sort of scratch my head a little bit. Now, not necessarily something that's always going to continuously jump out at you. Some of the flaws you actually have to look for, but nevertheless, they are indeed there. Now, let's take a closer look at the figure so this way you can see exactly what I'm talking about. For the neutral head of Ash Williams here, I have to be perfectly honest with you guys. While I do think the application for everything is very nice, the eyes, the eyebrows, the mouth, even the scar on the chin, I don't necessarily think that this is the best representation of Bruce Campbell. Now, with the other three heads, I think spot on to Bruce. But this head here, it makes him look very, 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 very old. Yeah, I know. He is getting up there in age, but this makes him look like he's got at least 20 more years on top of where he's currently at, which isn't really right. But anyway, aside from that, the sculpting details on this face and the other faces are very nice, and the hair looks really nice. Now, the sideburns on each head, as you will see when we get to the accessory section, they actually have a little too much gray on one or not enough gray on another. So keep that in mind that may vary from figure to figure, but regardless, it still looks good. Now when we move down to the torso, here's one of those areas where you're not really going to notice this until someone actually points this out to you. Ash's torso, for his shirt anyway, is actually made of a rubber-like material. Now, that material is supposed to be the same color as his arms. It's not. It's actually a lighter color blue than his arms would be. And this is the same situation for his pants, where his, the diaper area, because that's what it looks like, is a lighter coloration than the rest of the pants, which look a lot darker. Why? I think it's because at the factory, NECA actually had used the same paint and dyes and so forth for the actual rubbery material that they used for the hard plastic material that's used for the arms and legs, and that caused a different reaction when it went into the curing, the final formation process, whatever you want to call it, resulting in a lighter coloration and the end result. This is something that happens with Figmas from time to time, so seeing it happen here is not out of the ordinary, but it is disappointing if you have an eye for details. Another thing for details is that in Ash's waist, there is paint transfer from the pants over onto the shirt, which is disappointing. Other than that, I think they did a really, really nice job with the figure. We have all of the little buckles and all the buttons, which look really nice. It really does look like he is wearing a shirt. There are very, very minor imperfections from the molding process that translate over to the final figure. Overall, Ash looks nice, but he does have a few flaws that kind of make you scratch your head. For some, they'll be big, others, they'll be minor. Ash's articulation is pretty much just serviceable to get the job done, with a couple of improvements that absolutely, I believe, should have been made to this figure from the original standalone release, but we'll take a look, and I guess you can be the judge for when you decide to make the purchase. So what do we have for articulation? Well, Ash's head is actually plugged in on a peg, as you'll see in a little bit. So for where the head plugs in, it just swivels around from side to side. You can spin it all the way around, but that's a different movie, different horror movie entirely. But that peg is in the neck on a ball joint. So you do get a little bit more movement there from side to side, just like that. Not too much, but it works. We do have a swivel at the shoulder, so this way you can spin Ash's arms around, just like so. I'm going to keep the chainsaw on for this part. And then they do have hinges, so this way you can move them up and down, and you basically get ball jointed movement without actually using a ball joint. We do have swivels where the elbows plug into the bicep, so that's nice. So we technically get a bit of a bicep swivel, and we also get a swivel down at the forearm where it plugs in to the elbows, which is also good because there's a double hinge there. So yeah, that's pretty good for the arm articulation. A true bicep swivel would have been a little nicer, so this way we would have had a little bit more range of movement, but that's okay. Unfortunately, we can't really get Ash to reach back and grab the boomstick. That's gonna be about the best you can do. Yeah, and he does come with a shotgun, and you can just slide that in the back, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, you can't really get Ash to grab it in an action pose, but it is what it is. We do have a waist joint, which is a ball joint, so this way you can twist and turn Ash around from side to side as much as you would like and please, so that's good to go. For the hips, we do have what appears to be a connected joint here, kind of in a way. They might just be rubbing right up against each other, but anyway, they do swivel forward and back with hinges to allow movement from side to side, just like that. You can actually look up there. Hope you enjoy that shot. And while this one, where the joint plugs in on the thigh, I do have swivel movement, this one, I do not. So it is what it is. We have single jointed knees for hinges. They do also swivel. That one is very loose on mine. This one loose, but not as much. And then for the ankles, I'm not sure what kind of joints we get, but it looks like a ball joint with very, very restricted movement. So unfortunately, his feet are kind of pointless. You can get a little bit of ankle rocker movement, but not too much. So in general, for Ash, the articulation, it does work. I do think that we could have gotten a few more points of articulation, because if you're going in for a slashing pose with a chainsaw, then I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, I'm not expecting import levels of articulation here, like let's say Figma Link slashing the Master Sword or something like that. But to get Ash to make it look like he's really chopping up a Deadite, right, you really got to put some effort into it, kind of like that. And then, yeah. So it looks okay. Not the best, could be better, but you know, it is what it is. Overall, Ash's articulation is pretty serviceable, and you're going to get some nice poses out of him, but I do think that there could have been just a couple of more joints or better engineered joints to make the articulation a little better. But still good. That can happen too. Now it's time for accessories with Ashy Boy here, and we get quite a few of them because this is meant to be an ultimate figure. Aside from the neutral expression, we get one kind of shocked expression, one angry rage face expression, and we get one gritting teeth expression. For the hands, we get one chainsaw, yay, one robot hand, we get one wooden hand, and then for whatever reason, we get two stump parts. Gonna be honest with you here, I have absolutely no idea what these are for, so they may as well not even be in this set. Maybe there's a clear way to use them and I just don't know how, but anyway, I don't know how to use them. Of course, we also get the boomstick, and what's a nice added bonus is this picture of the Delta. Like I was talking about before when I was talking about the neutral head for Ash Williams here, the other action heads actually have a better resemblance to Bruce than the neutral face. So that is great to see here. Now, for all of the heads, as you can see, the details are very nice, and they do vary in terms of paint application. One could have a little bit more gray for the sideburns than the others. And interestingly enough, the gritting teeth face and the shocked face have a scar on the cheek, while the screaming face and the neutral face do not. Remember, kids, this is a combination set between the hero and the value stop Ashes that were released, so that's why the heads would be different. Now, to swap out the heads, unfortunately, it's just a peg that sits in the neck, so you're going to have to grip them and pull a little too hard for comfort. For me, I feel like I'm going to break the neck peg, but it's going to be okay. The boomstick just sits into Ash's left hand, not a problem. You're just going to have to move the fingers out of the way and then slip it in. If you're having a hard time getting it in there, just use hot water or a blow dryer to loosen up the fingers. Overall, the boomstick does look very, very nice. It's very small, so there's not a whole lot of detailing that can go into it, but for the detail that it does have, NECA did a pretty solid job. Now for the right hands, and I'm going to completely skip over the stumps because I have no idea exactly what those do. We already took a look at the robotic hand when we were taking a look at the sculpt and paint section of Ash earlier, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to look at the wooden hand. Very simple detailing here with a little bit of grain to be noticed when we're actually looking at the sculpt. So NECA did a pretty solid job there. But let's be honest here, you're probably not going to use the wooden hand. You're probably either going to use the robot hand or you're going to be using the chainsaw. And overall, the detailing for the chainsaw is really, really wicked. It has a fantastic gory red to it, even though it's not covered in blood, which is really cool. The handles and whatnot are color-coded appropriately, with even the little vent motor area having great paint application detail to it. So that is fantastic to see. What's a bit unfortunate, though, is that the actual chainsaw in and of itself, the blade, is kind of made of a stiffer plastic that has just a teeny bit of give, which can be a little bit concerning if you think, oh, hey, that can, and it'll snap. So don't bend that blade at all. To swap out the hand parts, all you're going to have to do is just grip one part, pull it off, and then pop the other one in. Then last up, we just have this picture of the Delta here. Ash and his Delta. Like, always got to have it in one of the movies. So the picture, honestly, is just made of a thicker paper. There's not really too much to it. Honestly, if you ever lose this, you can just get a picture of any Delta. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Sam's. And you can just scale it down on one of your image programs, and you can just print it off, and you're good to go. So while this is a nice touch, to be perfectly honest, if this was made of like a harder plastic or whatnot, it would have been better. So yeah, good to have in there, but realistically speaking, it's not something that you're going to be writing home about. Oh, wait a minute. There's one more accessory that I didn't make mention of. Generally speaking, I don't like to talk about the boxes when it comes to a review because I feel like that's not really something that should be factored in here. But for NECA's Ultimate figures, the boxes are out of this world. And on Ash's, we actually do have a holographic front to it. You know, one of those ones where if you just keep moving it back and forth, you can actually make it look like something is popping out at you. So that is really cool. Overall, the Ultimate box format for this Ash vs. Evil Dead Ultimate Ash figure, yeah, you got to use all the hype words, is really, really cool. And it does capture that Season 1 feel. On the back of the box, we just have some promotional shots with Ash and action poses and all that good stuff. And the cool thing about this is that there is a window flap, so this way you can look in and you can see pretty much all of the accessories for Ash right when you open it up out of that shipping box. So generally speaking, Ash comes with a whole bunch of cool stuff. But overall, at the end of the day, one of the things that I think they really fumbled with this set was they should have probably added in something like a muzzle flash for the shotgun, and definitely an extra left hand, because he always looks like he's holding onto the boomstick even when he's not holding onto it, which can definitely make for some awkward pictures, especially when he doesn't have that shotgun, if there's no need for it, or he needs to make a fist, or he has to have a splayed hand, so that's pretty upsetting. But generally speaking, the only way you're going to make this better is with different effect parts, and I do have a video to help you pick out some of those. So all in all, Ash comes with just the right amount of accessories, despite the fact he needs another left hand. Now, to wrap up the review, we're going to take a look at a nice size comparison with some other figures you just might happen to have on your shelf. So, as you can see here, Ash does fit in relatively well with the 6-inch or 7-inch action figure scale format. So, buy now, skip, or wait for a deal. Overall, Ultimate Ash here is absolutely worth the buy if you don't have the previous 2 Series 1 Ash Williams figures from the Ash vs. Evil Dead lineup. Now, with some of those older figures being more and more difficult to find, this is going to be everyone's pretty much only option for the immediate future anyway, aside from the Asylum Ash coming in Series 2. So that'll be cool. And I do believe that this figure has been reissued, so that is great to see that this is popping up again for you to purchase. All in all, I'm very, very happy with this figure, but I do think what would have made this better is just another left hand for more display options. Articulation could have been made a little better, and I do think that they really should have tried to avoid that difference in the rubber material versus the hard plastic. But at the end of the day, I think for about $25, you're getting what you're paying for here with NECA, and this time, it's not a bad thing. Well, folks, that's the end of this review. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow me on social media to catch more behind-the-scenes shenanigans and updates. The end card should be popping up now with more hand-selected STR goodness for you to watch, so check out some of those videos. Be sure to check the description too to see where you can buy this figure or others like it, and some cool links like the credits for this video and other ways you can help out the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch ya in the next video.